أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين وباعث الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين الرسول المؤيد والنبي الممجد المصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما عن الإمام المنتظر وحجة الله الثاني عشر ابن العسكري المنتظر، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن الله الصادق العليم قال في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون. صلوات. Many times, as speakers, when we go to communities, we have to make a lot of modifications based on certain changes that we observe or are conveyed to us. And with the days that pass so quickly, tonight we are in the third night. After tonight, there will be just 3 more majlises. That means on Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, the Chahilum Majlis. And what was supposed to be an Ashra initially was conveyed to me that it's converted into a Khamsa, which is fair enough. Management decision. But what it makes us do is then what was supposed to be planned for 12 majlises now needs to be encompassed and reallocated. The slider bar needs to be moved so that now all those things that was there for 12 majlis needs to be now reshuffled into 6 majalis. Although I'm very slyly and shrewdly taking more time, I was given 40 minutes and I constantly am hitting an hour. So I'm trying to cover up there, but I doubt I'll be able to cover up. So there will be a lot of things that I would have preferred to speak it out and discuss, because it forms part of the entire package of of the discussion on Imam Zaman, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. But with the days passing so quickly, the time short, there is a lot of reshuffling that needs to be done on the original planning that was originally there to present before you. And what you heard in the last 2 nights was basically an introduction. We've still not entered into the main topic. And what you will hear in the next 2 nights, including tonight, would be a groundwork for the final 2 majlis, which will be on Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. Because that's where the main message eventually needs to culminate. And I always say that whenever we have this, the Ashra, the Ayyam, the Khamsa, whatever, you cannot take the entire message from one majlis. It has to be a collection of all the 5, 6, 7, 8. If it's Ashra, then 10 majalis together will give you the entire picture of what needs to be presented. So what we've heard in the last 2 majalis is just an introduction, an icebreaker. The 2 hours have been an icebreaker. Tonight and tomorrow would be the groundwork paving the way for the final 2 majalis, which is where we want to hit. And what we want to hit is this fact, that in today's time that we are there in the imamate of our 12th imam, the thing that we need to understand very clearly is that, and I keep repeating this and I will continue to repeat till I'm alive, is that when he comes, there's just going to be one formula: my way or the highway. We cannot afford to place ourselves in the highway. If we are at the highway of imam, that means it's eternal perdition. There is no option, there is no salvation. The only way salvation is there is if we find ourselves and place ourselves in the my way of the imam. And for getting into the my way, these 4 majlises were necessary to go into the last 2. Ideally 12. We don't have 12. So we will have to cut out a lot of things. Try to go to the kernel. I'm not sure how effective it would be. Trying my best to convey the message, to bring about things. You can't just, when you go into food, you just can't dive into the biryani. You have to have so many other things. Samosa na ho to pachi biryani maja na aave, right? You need to have samosas. Yeah, you need to have those. See you bana. You need to have those things. Otherwise, directly biryani yahan pe bana maja na aave. This is how it is. You need to build up before you actually get the essence. And that is unless and until there's an appropriate time slot, you don't want to embark on certain things because you know it's not going to make an impact. And so for tonight, we need to understand that the entire crux of these 5, 6 majalis that we've got is to understand how to place ourselves in the my way of the imam. There is no option for us to go into the highway. That is that ashqal ashqiya that we spoke about. That is that ashqal ashqiya of Ibn Muljam standing against an imam. We stand up against an imam, and that was the reason I mentioned in the very first 2 majalis. The challenges that we are having, the dangers. We keep saying, Allahumma ajjal li waliyik al-faraj, ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. We keep praying. Imam, the 6th imam says, remember, you will be the people. I'm talking about myself, I'm not talking about you. Says, you will be the person who will be standing up against the imam. Be careful. You need to make sure you're not in the highway. You have to be in the my way. But in order for us to be in the my way of the imam and not the highway of the imam, in order for us to be in the group of the imam and not against the group, in order for us to be with the imam and not like Talha and Zubair who stood up against Imam Ali in the battle of Jamal, there are certain criteria and there are certain shart and shurutiha. And the entire objective of these 12 majalis, had it taken place, was the exact concept was, how do we understand, what do we need to do, what are those criteria, what are those parameters that are required for an individual to be classified as being part of the my way of the imam rather than the highway of the imam. And this is where the problem comes to me. Now all those things which was for this 12 majalis need to be now summarized into 6 majalis. And this is what we will need to work around. So all our efforts in these remaining 4 nights is to understand and get an idea. What are those things that the imam requires, and understand there he doesn't need any help. There are times, understand this. We feel we are doing a favor to the imams. We feel we are doing a favor to the religion. We feel we set up this majalis, we volunteer, fulan, and we think we are doing an ihsan upon the Ahlul-bayt. We are doing no ihsan upon the Ahlul-bayt. They don't need us. They very well can run their own institution. What this is giving us is an opportunity for us to get our akhirat sorted out. We mess up big time in this world. This is an opportunity for us to gain deliverance and salvation in the hereafter. Let nobody be under the misconception you're doing a favor to Islam. Nobody's doing a favor to Islam. Even if there was nobody and one man, God says that one man is enough to bring about the revolution that I want. So we're not doing him any favor. We are not doing Islam any favor. If at all we are doing a favor, it's doing to ourselves, because we are ensuring and guaranteeing that we have a good akhirah. Having understood this, it becomes extremely important for us to understand what are those parameters that the imam is looking for in order for us to classify, to be entering into his group, so that we become part of my way rather than the highway. But that will come in Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday morning. The point that today we need to understand is that there were people, just as we keep clamoring Allahumma ajil li waliyikal faraj. There were individuals who kept saying, Allahumma ajil li waliyikal faraj. But those people were divided into two groups. There were those people who kept saying, Allahumma ajil li waliyikal faraj. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of our Imam. Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam. They kept saying it, and when they got an opportunity, they seized it with both hands to be getting a position where it is absolutely eternal salvation. But at the same time, there are individuals who would clamor, Allahumma ajil li waliyikal faraj. But when the time came, they let the opportunity go. Opportunity missed is opportunity lost. If an opportunity with Imam Zamana is missed and lost, then it's not coming back. They find themselves into the fires of hell. And this is what we need to take a lesson. We will discuss tonight and tomorrow certain things that serve as a lesson for us. Ibrat. The Quran keeps saying, فَأَتَّبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. If you're men of understanding, if you're men of intelligence and intellect, take heed. Learn from the experience of the others. In in letter number 31 that Ali writes to his son Imam Hassan, it is his wasiyat. It is the wasiyat of Ali to Hassan. He says, Hassan, listen, you are still young. I have passed my life in this world. I have seen things, I have experienced things that you will see and you will experience. But you, rather than learning the hard way, don't reinvent the wheel. I'm putting all my experiences to you in this wasiyat. Read this wasiyat, listen to my experience I've gone through. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Understand what I've gone through. Take heed from what I'm saying, because I speak out of experience. And this is what Quran keeps saying. فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Listen, see what has happened in the past communities. Take heed so that you don't fall into the same quagmire that they fell into. Look at those that have been successful in the previous communities. Take advantage and you take heed from them so that you become successful. Don't try to reinvent the wheel over and over again. Take experiences, learn from what they have said, and then you move forward. And this is what we need to do. And tonight we need to speak about certain things that not only will highlight to us the importance of certain individuals, but the entire institution of how the Mahdaviyat moves around. Because you know, in the year 255 Hijri, the 12th would know, the Bani Abbas would know. In this circumstance, Imam Zamana is born, 255 Hijri. 260 Hijri, at the age of 5 years, the 11th Imam passes away. So now, in 260 Hijri, the 12th Imam becomes the Imam. The Imamate starts. At the start of the Imamate is the start of Ghaibat al-Sughra. He immediately, the Shahadat of the 11th Imam and the 12th Imam goes into Ghaibat. Ghaibat al-Sughra. And now we need to understand. Individuals at the time of Ghaibat. Because for us, that period is very important. In that period, in those times, there were individuals who were in touch with the Imams. Some perish, some get eternal salvation. The same situation is going to come when the Imam comes. We are again going to be in touch with the Imam. Some of us are going to take eternal perdition. Some of us is going to get eternal bliss. The only way we can make sure that we don't fall into the quagmire of eternal perdition, hum fiha khalidun, is to take heed of what happened at the time of Ghaibat al-Kubra. How people dealt with the Imam, what was the outcome of their dealings with the Imam, so that we then become alert and cautious as to how we need to behave. So tonight we need to explain certain things, which not only will emphasize how these individuals worked and what happened to them, but give us an outline of how the Imamat in Ghaibat al-Sughra used to work. Imam goes into Ghaibat al-Sughra. Ghaibat al-Sughra, as opposed to Ghaibat al-Kubra. Sughra means small, Kubra means big. Now this is for my young brothers, the elders definitely know this. Kubra means small, Sughra means small, Kubra means big. Ghaibat means occultation. Ghaibat, moving away from the eyes. In Ghaibat al-Sughra, the difference between Ghaibat al-Sughra, the smaller occultation, and the bigger occultation is that in the smaller occultation, Imam had contact with the Shiites, while not directly, through means of an intermediary. And these are referred to as the Na'ibin or the Nawab. The Nawab that is called is the representatives, the deputies of the Imam. And these are the 4 deputies. And these are the 4 deputies I want to talk to you about, so that we need to have an idea who these individuals are. What happened to them? How their interaction with the Imam led them to such a position that if we want to emulate them, this is what our outcome is going to be. So Imam in Ghaibat al-Sughra had 4 Naibin, and today I want to give life history about these, and then we move on to individuals who, while staying with the Imam, while adhering to the concepts of Imamat, while believing in Mahdaviyat, something goes wrong. When things go wrong, then there's perdition and there's no salvation. And this, before we go into what is required of us, we need to take lessons. The first of the naib of the Imam, from the time of 260 Hijri, Imam goes into ghaibat. Imam goes into ghaibat, says there's one individual through whom I will communicate with the outside world, with the Shiites. Imam had a lot of work to do. He would guide the people, and you would hear as the lecture proceeds tonight. He says there's one individual I will communicate after the death of my father upon the rulings of God. I'm going to go into disappearance, into occultation. Normal people, the Shiites, will not be able to communicate with me for fear of my life, for fear of their life. I need to remain alive, they need to remain alive. They need to remain alive so that religion continues. I need to remain alive so that I continue to guide them till God decides and makes a decision when I need to come. When this entire scenario unfolds, the first man who becomes the first naib, Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Umari, a man of intense piety. Now you need to understand that these four individuals, one after the other, not at the same time, one after the other, they were regarded as the conduit between the Imam and all the Shiites and the entire universe. So any communication that needs to come to the Imam comes through them. Any communication that needs to go from the Imam to the people goes through them. They serve as a conduit between the Imam and the people. This conduit has to be selected in such a way, and has to be an individual that in that phase of time, in that phase of time, in that period of time, no man is superior to that individual except Imam Zaman. That means the second best individual on the face of this earth, whom Imam has selected as his representative, a direct representative. So Imam says, I will not talk to any of the Shiites directly. This is the ruling of God. There is a hikmat, there is a mashiach, there is a will, there is a ruling I cannot violate. I am supposed to communicate to the people through one man. This one man has to be the next best individual on the face of the earth after me. And so understand these four individuals. First, Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Umari, a man who was the wakil of the 12th Imam. But that was not very important. Yes, important. But the perspective is this, that the same Uthman ibn Sa'id was not only the wakil of the 12th Imam, he was also wakil of the 11th Imam. And he was also wakil of the 10th Imam. That means a man who sees the imamat of three Imams. Wakil of the 10th Imam, Imam Naqi. Wakil of the 11th Imam, Imam Askari. And the wakil of the 12th Imam. At the time of the 10th Imam, he is the wakil. People would come to the Imam. People would ask him, is this man authentic in your opinion? To the 10th Imam. And look, we will explain. At times it is when a person like you and me talk about someone. At times when it is Imam Masoom talking about someone. Makes a lot of difference. Huh? At times it is a Hujjat of God who's talking about an individual. People come and ask him, this Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Umari, how is he? He comes and tells us that Imam has said this, Imam has said this, Imam has given this, Imam has given this pagham. The 10th Imam, this is not even the 12th Imam, 10th Imam. He's saying, understand, al-Umari thiqati. He is my confidant. I have complete i'tibar and trust in him. Ma addakum, whatever he gives you, anni, from me, saying that it is from me, understand, you addi anni, he's giving it on behalf of me. Wa maqala lakum, whatever he says to you, anni, says that Imam has said this, understand that he has said it. If he gives you something and says, I have given, I have given it. If he says, Imam has said that, understand, I have said that. So much confidence of God, because this man will never go rogue. This man will never go corrupt. This was the first Imam, the 10th Imam speaking about him. After the 10th Imam, the position of Uthman ibn Sa'id, the first naib of the 12th Imam, was so great that the son of the 10th Imam, which is the 11th Imam, says, I will continue with him as my wakil. He remains in the wakalat of the 11th Imam till the Imam continues to live. After the shahadat of the 11th Imam, the 12th Imam says, I will take him into my wakalat. Man of great piety, man of great respect, man of great ibadat. Understand, if this man is taken by the Imam Zamana to be the man as a conduit between himself and the entire world, this man has to be the second best man on earth after Imam Zamana. This is the individual we're talking about. After he passes away, his son comes. Like father, like son. The first naib was Uthman ibn Sa'id. The second one is the son Muhammad ibn Uthman ibn Sa'id.
like father, like son. At the time of the 11th Imam, certain individuals come to the 11th Imam talking about Uthman ibn Said, the first Naib. Now you'll need to be careful with these names, because as it is, I've got less medalists. The time is short. I need to move quickly. You need to be careful with the names so that you don't get confused. Uthman ibn Said, the first deputy of the Imam. Second deputy, his son, Muhammad ibn Uthman ibn Said. To understand the importance of the son, listen to what the 11th Imam is talking about the first Naib with respect to the second Naib. Certain individuals come to the Imam, to the 11th Imam. He says, Yabna Rasulullah. Now you have to understand, Imam is in Samara. Imam is in Iraq. People would come from all places, from Sham, from Medina, from Mecca, traveling distances. There were times when and it was not like the plane, you sit over here across the Atlantic in 8.5 hours. In those days when you would travel, there would be individuals who would get one opportunity to see the Imam once in a lifetime. This entire issue of Ismaili came up because of this. Every time people would, the Ismaili group comes up from the 6th Imam. 6th Imam had a son by the name of Hadrat Ismail. Very prominent, very muttaqi, very parezgar, very much an apple's eye of the 6th Imam. Whenever people would come, they would see Hadrat Ismail coming. Now these people from Sham would come from long distances. 2 months of travel to just come to Medina. They would see Hadrat Ismail, Imam Sadiq giving a lot of respect to him. So now they would consider, after Imam Sadiq, he's going to be the Imam. They would go back, they would say, Imam Sadiq has a son, Ismail, very fulan, very religious, very pious. Imam would, love him so much, respect him so much. Many times we ask him questions, Imam would say, go and ask Ismail, he will answer. So we believe after him, after Imam Sadiq, it will be Ismail. And they came to know Imam Sadiq has passed away. So it has to be Ismail. That Ismail Firqa starts off. This is what I'm saying, how it goes. So people would take a long time to come. People would find it very difficult to come. We're talking about Uthman, Muhammad ibn Uthman. People came to the 11th Imam. Oh, Yabna Rasulullah, this man is purporting himself to be your wakil. We want to give him Sharia, wujuhat Shari'iyah. That means the money of Shariat, khums, zakat, Radd Madalim, another, whatever. Does he have your permission, your authority to collect the khums? Does he have the permission and authority on your behalf to collect the money? See, this is a lesson for us, You find 10 different people, 10 different organizations stating, we've got a khums ijaza, we've got the ijaza from Agha Sistani, from Fulan Marja, we are doing this job, we are doing this project, can you give money? Fair enough, nothing wrong with that. That is his job. But me as an individual, when I'm taking out khums, I cannot go verbal. I need to be certain. So when I'm giving to an individual or a project or an organization who says who's got a ijaza, I need to be sure first of all that ijaza is valid. Second, if it is valid, all maraji, including Ayatollah Sistani, doesn't give a carte blanche to anybody to collect as much money as he wants. It's always a limited amount. So you can collect $100,000 in a year. As me giving khums, I cannot give him money if he's already collected $100,000, because that is the limit that the marja has placed. He cannot collect it, I cannot give him. If I give him my 5,000 pounds as khums and he's already collected 100,000, this 5,000 doesn't count as khums, because it is going into hands that are not qualified now to collect the khums. I go into the grave, the first question asked, where is my khums? I said, Baba, I've given it. He says, whom did you give it to? That individual. Baba, his limit was 100,000. Did you check out that his 100,000 is over? Did you even ask him? Oh, because 2 years ago he had told me, so I keep giving it. These are issues of fiqh that we need to be aware of. It's not very easy. This is Imam's money. This is Imam's money. Tax you don't pay. After 5 years you're given that whole list. So many years of tax not paid, areas with the penalty. Give. This is Imam Zamana, is running the universe. We need to be careful whom we give our money, one, how we give our money to. You can't just say, oh, 2 years ago I knew he had the ijazah, so I'm giving it to him. No. When we go down there 6 feet under the grave, we will be asked, oh, because 2 years ago. 2 years is a long time. Did you find out at the time when you're giving khums? Whether the ijazah is there, one, whether the limit that he was given by the marja exists or not, or he's overshot it. When I give khums to individuals that I know, I clearly ask them, do you have the ijazah? Show it to me, please. Not that I don't trust you. It is my shari right, and it's my shari duty for me to do it. Who wants to pay $5,000 and then afterwards being told your money is not considered as khums? Can you show me the ijazah? I trust you. Can I have a look at the ijazah? Second, have you reached that limit? If the person is mu'tabar, if he just tells you, fair enough, not a problem. You don't have to go through his accounts and go through his entire balance sheet. But it is important for us to complete our hujjat. Anyway, these individuals come to the 11th Imam. Yabna Rasulullah, does he have your authority to collect the khums? Imam says, Naam. Yes. Then he says something. Fashhadu. Bear witness. Bear witness what? Anna Uthman ibn Sa'id wakili. That this Uthman ibn Sa'id that you're talking about is my wakil. And then he goes a step further. Who? The 11th Imam. Prophesizing. Says Uthman ibn Sa'id wakili. He's my wakil. Wa ibnuhu Muhammadan wakilu ibni. His son Muhammad is eventually going to be the wakil of my son Mahdikum, whom you will eventually refer to him as Al-Mahdi. That means even before the second naib becomes a naib, the 11th Imam has given a prophecy portending the future that this Uthman ibn Sa'id's son is going to be so good that while this man is going to be my wakil, his son is going to be the wakil of my son. These are the individuals you're talking about. When the first naib dies, the second naib, Muhammad ibn Uthman, becomes the naib of the Imam. Imam writes a letter to him. Says Muhammad ibn Uthman, my condolences to you on the death of your father. And then he says a sentence, Ajabbana. When Imam says this, you understand the position of these individuals. These are those individuals who have been constantly with the Imam and have taken guidance from the Imam to reach this position. And there will be, you will be hearing tomorrow, individuals who have been with the Imam but have turned away. Hum fiha khalidun, into the fires of hell. Why do we keep saying this? Because the same thing will be applicable to us. When Imam comes, we will be in touch with him. We cannot afford to be in this group like these individuals who have turned away from the Imam. We need to be in the group who have benefit from the company of the Imam. So Imam writes to the second naib. He says, my condolences to you on the death of your father. Then he says, وَمِنْ كَانَ مِنْ كَمَالِ سَعَادَتِهِ. The greatest success of your father is what? كَانَ مِنْ كَمَالِ سَعَادَتِهِ أَنْ يَرْزُقَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى وَلَدًا مِثْلَكَ. It says the greatest success of your father in this world is that God has graced him with a son like you. This is for the second naib. These are the individuals. This is not me talking. This is Imam Zamana talking. It says, Ya Muhammad ibn Uthman ibn Sa'id. The greatest success of your father, Uthman ibn Sa'id, is that your father has been graced by Allah with a son like you. Father was my wakil, the best man on the earth after me. After your father, you are the best man on the earth after me. Ajab, this is the best man after Imam Zaman on the earth. These are the two naib. The third naib, Hussein ibn Raw and Nawbakhti. See, the reason I need to say this is, we can't state we love Imam and not know things about him. We can't say we are the muhibbin of Imam and not know things about him. We can't say we follow the Imam and not know things about him. This is very hollow talk. This is what Quran says. يَقُولُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They talk with their tongues what is not there in their hearts. If you love somebody, you want to know everything about it. Today you talk about individuals. Over there we talk about Manchester United. Here you probably talk about the Super Bowl. You have pick up one football player these individuals like. They know life history about that individual. What he eats in the afternoon, they know. When he sneezes, they will know. He sneezes, they will know. You see suddenly on the Facebook. Oh, he's having a cold, he's sneezing. Baba, this football player, you know his life history, but Imam Zamana, we don't. And then we say, oh, we love our Imam so much. Oh, when he comes, we will fight alongside him. Oh, we will take revenge of the killers of the... Where are the killers of Karbala? You don't know a thing about the Imam, and you want to say, I love the Imam. You need to love the Imam like you love the footballer, more than that. Obviously more than that. But no, this is what we need to understand. This is what we need to understand. Hussein ibn Rawh al-Nawbakhti, the third naib, the third representative, the third deputy of the Imam. Now this individual, you may understand or not understand. You may accept or not accept. You may know or you don't know. But this individual's name I see, except these small little children, everybody takes this person's name once in a year. Everybody takes the name of this third naib once in a year. Probably you don't know. All of us. You know when? 15th of Sha'ban. That 15th of Sha'ban we're talking about Arida. You write the Arida on the 15th morning. What do? We fold it up, we take little load, we put it inside the load, we cover it up so the fishes eat it, so whatever the explanation is given. Then what happens? You say, listen, Maulana comes and tells you, listen, now that you're so happy that you're putting this into the river, you just can't just put it into the river. This is no fishing contest. You need to recite the dua. When you recite the dua, in that dua, the name of this third naib comes. Because you're addressing this arida to him and telling him, oh yeah, it starts off with this. It's a 4-5 line dua. But it starts off with this. Ya Hussein ibn Raw an-Nawbakhti, salamun alayka. Ashhadu anna wafataka fi sabilillah. Wa innaka indallahi hayyun indallahi marzuq. Say, Ya Hussein ibn Raw an-Nawbakhti, we bear witness that your death was on the path of Allah that He has ordained for you. And right now, even though in this world you may have died, but you still are alive and getting your sustenance from your Lord. As the Quran says, those who are shaheed find the sustenance with their Lord. And then we said, this is what I'm handing over to you. Your relation to the Imam is closer than my relation to the Imam. So I request you, can you take my arida and pass it to the Imam so that he prays for us in whatever things are written over here. This is the same Hussein ibn Raw an-Nawbakhti, the third naib. This third naib. But there's an incident that I want to tell you. I will start off with the fourth and then I will tell you. The fourth naib, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri. Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri. And now I'll just, because having given an introduction, I will tell you how these individuals and the positions that they have reached. The last naib, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri. After that, once he dies, Imam says, now Ghaibat al-Kubra begins. Now there is no special representative through whom I will communicate. Now I'm going. But how does it happen? How does it happen? But one incident. The students of Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri, the fourth naib, the last naib, before which Ghaibat al-Kubra begins. So they're sitting down in a group. Just listen to this incident to understand. I've not gone into details because we can talk at length about every individual. Talking about the last and then we quickly move. Since the students of Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri sitting, he's teaching them. He's representative of the Imam. He's definitely teaching, training. As he's talking, the students narrate while they talk. Now these are all available in all the books that talk about Mahdi and Mahdaviyat and the life history of Imam Zamana. It's all there. As they're sitting, he's dictating, he's explaining certain things. All of a sudden, he puts his head down. As if something severe has happened. Very anguished, very sad, very anxious, anxiety writ over his face, pain writ over his face, sadness and sorrow upon his face. And suddenly the students ask, Sayyidi, what is wrong? What has happened to you? Now, this is the incident of Baghdad. Baghdad is in Iraq. He's giving a lesson, giving a dars, all of a sudden change in the demeanor, change in facial expressions, anguish, sadness, sorrow writ upon his face. The students ask, Sayyidi, what has happened? Ustad, what has happened? He says, Ali ibn Qumi Babawayh has passed away in Qum. He's in Baghdad. He's talking about Ali ibn Babawayh Qumi in Qum having passed away. Now let me tell you who this Ali ibn Babawayh Qumi is. Most of us have heard about Sheikh Saduq. In the Islamic fiqh, no marja can give a fatwa except that he has gone through the hadith of 4 books that we refer to as Kutub Arba. These 4 books are those major books without which a mujtahid cannot give a fatwa. However big the mujtahid is, till he is not gone through these 4 books. These are referred to as Kutubul Arba. Kutub means books, Arba means 4, the 4 books. One of them is Usulul Kafi. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Yaqub al-Kulaini. Everybody's heard about Al-Kafi. But there is one book in this which is referred to Man la yahduruhul faqih. The riwayat in this book cannot be seen unless these riwayats are not seen. A mujtahid cannot give a fatwa. The musannif, the author of this book, Sheikh Saduq. This Sheikh Saduq, let me tell you about him so that you know what we are talking about and individuals that we're talking about and which life we lead in and what fallacious and captivities that we've got in this world have taken us away from realities. Sheikh Saduq, one of the most prominent scholars in the early stages of Islam. One fact about Sheikh Saduq was that, and I will give you the reason for it. One fact about Sheikh Saduq was, Sheikh Saduq had a photographic memory. Photographic memory and a kevu. He would pick up a book, he would read a page, 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, he would read a book. After that, you ask him any page and he would recite it by memory. That's called photographic memory. The books that he would read, everything that he would read, I'll tell you the reason, listen to this. Every page that he would read gets imprinted. A photographic memory, that was something that's special about him. This Sheikh Saduq, name Saduq means somebody very truthful, comes from the word Sadiq. Sadiq means somebody who's truthful. Saduq means somebody who's extremely truthful. This Sheikh Saduq, his father Ali ibn Babawayh, about whom this fourth Naib, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri, gave the indication that he has passed away. Ali ibn Babawayh in Qum. This Ali ibn Babawayh is the father of Sheikh Saduq. Sheikh Saduq's name is Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Babawayh. The father is Ali ibn Babawayh. Sheikh Saduq's name is Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Babawayh. So now you heard about Sheikh Saduq, photographic memory. How it comes about, listen to this. His father Ali ibn Babawayh, for a certain time in life he never had children. He never had children. This is the time of Ghaibat al-Sughra, the time when Imam had, and the time of the third Naib, Hussein ibn Raw and Nawbakhti, that the one that we write the Arida and put in, that time. Ali ibn Babawayh for several years, no children. Living in Iran, next to Qum. Initially he was living in Ray. That Ray, Ray, that same area for which Omar Assad was given the promise, I will give you if you kill Hussein. For that same reason, he killed Hussein, the same place, Ray. Ali ibn Babawayh living in Ray. He is married, doesn't have children. Years he doesn't have children. Once he dua, keeps praying, no reply. So what do I do? So Imam is there, let me go to the Imam. No access to the Imam directly. I've got access to his Naib, Hussein ibn Raw Nawbakhti. He takes off from Iran, Qum, Tehran, Ray, goes to Baghdad, meets Hussein ibn Raw Nawbakhti. He says, Ya Hussein, Ya Sayyidi, you are the Naib Khas. You are the Naib of the Imam. You are in direct contact with the Imam. I don't have direct contact with the Imam, but you do have. Can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor? Hussein ibn Raw Nawbakhti says, Ali ibn Babawayh, Jalilul Qadr Alim, you're having your martaba, your rank, your status. I know, tell me what can I do for you? He says, ask Imam to pray for me so that I get a child. He says, done. I will convey the message. He says, you convey the message, send me the message back. I don't want to impose the Imam when he replies, because I know Imam, his Mashiat, God's Mashiat, they know what to do. Just convey to the Imam, Ali ibn Babawayh is requesting you, can you please pray to God so that I get a son, I get a child. Hussein ibn Raw Nawbakhti says, next time I meet the Imam, I will convey your message. Ali ibn Babawayh leaves Baghdad, returns back to Qum. 3 days later, he receives a message from Hussein ibn Raw Nawbakhti. Imam has answered. You have requested something, he sent a message. Look at the message of the Imam. Says Hussein ibn Raw Nawbakhti says, I went to the Imam and I told the Imam, Ali ibn Babawayh came from Qum just so that I could communicate to you this message, that he wants you to pray for him so that he gets a child. Now Hussein ibn Nawbakhti is writing to Ali ibn Babawayh Qumi. Says, Imam has said this. Now listen what Imam says. He says, Hussein, tell Ali ibn Babawayh that from the current wife that he has, he will not get any child. But in a short while, he will purchase a kaniz, a slave girl. He needs to marry her. Once he marries her, now Imam gives 4 prophecies. He says, once he marries her, with this wife there is no child. The Mashiach of God does not allow him to get a child from this woman. But a slave girl will anqarib come very shortly in his control. He needs to marry her. Once he marries her, then Imam says 4 basharat to Ali ibn Babawayh Qumi. He says once he marries her, God will grace him with waladain. Up to now he never had children. Up to now there was no children. That's the reason he went from Iran to Iraq to Baghdad to the Naib to pray to Imam. Imam says with the slave girl, God will grace him waladain, 2 children. Hassan, Hassanain, 2 Hassan. Maghrib, Maghribain. Maghrib and Isha 2. Dhuhr, Dhuhrain. Walad, Waladain. 2 children. Look at the 4 prophecies. He says, tell Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Qumi, with this slave girl, God will grace him Waladain, 2 children. Dhakarain, 2 male children. Dhakar means male. Untha in Arabic means female. Says Waladain, 2 children. Dhakarain, 2 male children. Khairain, pious individuals. They will grow up to be pious individuals. They will grow up to be muttaqi individuals. They will grow up to be khairain. 2 boys who are khair. And then he adds the last one, faqihain. 2 children who will become faqih. When they are born, tell Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Qumi to name the first one Muhammad, name the second one Hussein. This Muhammad becomes Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Babwa Qumi, which you and me known to be Sheikh Saduq, whose book without reading and the hadith in his books without reciting, no mujtahid can give a fatwa. And that is what Sheikh Saduq would keep saying, Ana wulidtu bid'awati sahib al-amr. I was born because of the dua of Imam Zamana. And Imam writes to Hussein ibn Rawan al-Bakti, tells him, tell Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Qumi, we have prayed for him to get children and God has accepted our prayers. Remember last night we mentioned how Imam wrote to Sheikh Mufid, understand, we know all that goes around with you. We know all your happenings. If it were not for our prayers, you would never be successful in life. You would have finished up. You would have gone away. Here Imam says, tell Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Qumi, there was no child from this wife. We prayed to God. God says, now because you've prayed, we are making arrangements so that he gets children. Waladain, dhakar. Waladain, dhakarain, khairain, faqihain. And all of these 4 came true. After he gets married to the slave girl, 2 children are born, 2 males are born. They grow up to be pious individuals. More than that, they grow up to be faqih. They grow up to be the likes of Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Babwa Qumi. This was Ali ibn Babwa Qumi in Baghdad. Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samuri sitting, the last naib, sitting with the students, narrating, puts his head down. What happened, Sayyidi? Ali ibn Babwa Qumi has passed away in Qum. Sitting in Baghdad, this Naib Imam is giving information of what is happening in Qum. Even now if you go to Iran and you go to Qum, outside the haram of Bibi Masuma is the grave of Ali ibn Babwa Qumi. Sometimes it really hurts us. People don't know who these wali Khuda are, who these awliya Khuda are. They spend so much money to go to Iran, they don't visit these graves. They come back. They lose out on so much barakat, by the grace that would be beneficial to them, by the barakat that they would get from this. But because of lack of knowledge, they don't go there. They don't go to these individuals. Here the Naib is saying, now what happens? The students say, as soon as they heard it, Sayyid is in Baghdad. He's talking about something in Qum. They note down the time. They note down the date. This was the time, this was the date that Ali ibn Muhammad has narrated, has said that Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Qumi has passed away. 18 days later, somebody was coming from Qum, enters into Baghdad. They come to know the students. This person has come from Iran, has come from Qum. They go to him. You've come from Qum? He's saying, yes. You were in Iran? He says, yes. In Qum? Yes. Is there any news that you've got? Something very major? He's saying, yes. He's saying, what? He's saying, Ali ibn Ibrahim Qumi passed away just as I was about to leave. He says, when did he pass away? On so and so date. What time? So and so time. They match it. It tallies. See, these are these individuals that we're talking about. These are these people that we're talking about. Sitting in Baghdad, they are able to monitor what is happening. If this is the state of somebody who is a naib of an imam who's not a masoom, what do you say about a masoom who's got control over the entire universe? This is what we need to understand now. He doesn't need us. We need him. We need him. Let me give you one indication to make us realize how important this is. See, when somebody was asking Allama Tabatabai, so we want to meet the Imam. Everybody, who doesn't want to meet the Imam? Tell me. Tell me one individual who goes for Hajj. See, one of the things that is written in stone. One place you want to meet the Imam. One place. You want to be certain. You want to put your hands on the Quran and say, this is where now the Imam is. It's at the time of Hajj. Every Hajj, Imam is there. This is our ilm kalam. Every Hajj, Imam is there. So one place where you want to be there and you're sure that Imam will be there with you is at the time of Hajj. Somebody asked Allama Tabatabai, when people go on Hajj, you ask them, one of the things they will say, oh, I wish I could meet Imam Zamana. Those who go for ziyarat, on Tuesdays they go for Jamkaran. Isn't there in their minds that feeling, oh, I wish I could meet Imam Zamana? Who goes to Jamkaran without this intention in mind? Tell me. Everybody knows that Imam is coming over there. Every Tuesday he comes, every Tuesday he doesn't come, that's a different issue. But there are so many narrations, there's so many efforts that Imam comes in Jamkaran. Khud Ayatollah Marashi, Shahabuddin Marashi has said, majority of the times that I've met Imam Zamana, it was in Masjid Jamkaran. Look at the words, huh? Majority of the time that I met Imam Zamana, it was in Jamkaran. That means there were times outside Jamkaran he met. So Jamkaran he comes. Everybody goes to Jamkaran. I wish I could meet the Imam. Shab Juma on Tuesday nights. Fulan. I wish we get to meet the Imam. Go for Hajj. There's intention in the mind. Oh, I wish I meet the Imams. Somebody asked Allama Tabatabai, I want to meet the Imam. What do I do? Allama Tabatabai says, why are you worried? You become somebody that is like the Imam wants. He would come to see you. You don't have to go to see him. You be of an individual of a caliber that fits up to the criteria. You don't have to go to the Imam. Imam will come to you. You think it is too much, huh? You think I'm talking extravagantly? This is too much of a hyperbole? Ayatollah Sistani. And I'm saying this so that you can go and refer. Next time you go for ziyarat, go and talk to Ayatollah Sistani. Ayatollah Sistani said Ali Husseini Sistani. The last 3-4 minutes, I go to Masai. Ali Husseini Sistani. His father, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir Sistani, the father of Ayatollah Sistani. Sometimes the son takes precedence over the father. He was a Jalilul Qadr alim, a Sayyid, very pious. He never became the marja. His son, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Husseini, became the marja, became the de facto marja of the Shiite world. There are times when this happens, like in the case of Allama Majlisi. Allama Majlisi that you and me know about, who's written the 110 volumes of Biharul Anwar, say Muhammad Baqir Majlisi. His father, Sheikh Muhammad Taqi Majlisi. The father is called Majlisi Awwal, the first Majlisi. The second is referred to as Allama Majlisi. Allama Majlisi becomes more famous than the father. Rank in the eyes of God, we are talking about in front of us. Said Ali Husseini Sistani, his father said Muhammad Baqir Sistani. Look at the inch. The father himself is narrating this. Who? The father of Ayatollah Sistani. And the reason I'm saying it, you want to verify, go to Iraq, talk to Aga Sistani and he will tell you. He himself is narrating who? The father, said Muhammad Baqir Sistani. He is saying one day during the time when he was alive, he is saying there was a time when it suddenly struck me, I need to meet my Imam. It became overwhelmingly overpowering. I need to meet my Imam. I need to meet my Imam. In this world, if you are alive and you don't meet the Imam, then khak upon this life. If you're living in this world and the Imam is there and you don't meet the Imam, this life is worthless. He says, I want to meet the Imam. So you want to meet the Imam. So what does he do? He says, okay, let me do the wird of reciting Ziyarat Ashura 40 Fridays. He says, what do I do? Where do I do? He picks up one masjid in the mosque. He says, every Friday I'm going to come over here at the specific time in the afternoon after Jummah prayers to recite Ziyarat Ashura with the intention, 40 weeks, 40 Fridays, 40 Ziyarat Ashura with the niyat, I need to meet my Imam. It starts. Every Friday after Jummah he would come inside. He would sit in that particular mosque. He would start reciting Ziyarat Ashura. 1 week, 2 weeks, 20 weeks, 30 weeks, 35 weeks, 37 weeks, 38 weeks. So it's just about to complete the 40 weeks. So Allama Tabatabai said, almost about to complete, 2-3 weeks remaining. Now this is what the father of Ayatollah Sistani is saying. He says, I was in the last final stages of completion. And till then I had not met the Imam. So now I was certain, if at all it were to materialize, it would materialize in the next 2 or 3 weeks. He says, I was just reciting. All of a sudden, 37th, 38th week, a sudden state overcomes me. Now I don't know. And usually it happens that when you need to be graced by a spiritual entity, then you are not in a position at times to, it goes into a different realm. He says, all of a sudden state overcomes me. And all of a sudden I'm seeing a bright light coming inside from the window of the mosque that I'm doing. This is Aga Sistani's father narrating. He's saying, I look out of the window and I see at a distance there's a house at a distance across the street from the mosque, a house in which there's an absolute luminous light that's emanating from there and entering into the mosque. I felt as a magnet dragged towards it. It was as if I was being pulled towards it. So I get out, a state I could not, whether it is sleeplessness, wakefulness, what, but I could see that light. It was a different state that I was experiencing. And I felt dragged towards that light. So I start walking towards that house. A very small, derelict, small, very mediocre type of house, not something lavish, something very, a poor person who could make it out. He says, I see, as I near, I see the light getting brighter, because the moment I come nearer, it appears to get brighter. I go inside, approach the door, I touch the door is open. I enter into a lounge, into a corridor. I go into the corridor and I realize there's a room on the right hand side in which the door is slightly ajar and the light is coming inside. And I'm being pulled into that direction. So I go inside into the corridor, turn to the right, I open the door. As I open the door, I realize there is somebody who's seated over there from whose body this nur is coming. Immediately it comes to me, it strikes me, it's made to strike to me that this is Imam Zaman. Now Aga Sistani's father is saying, I saw Imam and tears started to flow down my eyes. I began to weep. I couldn't stop weeping. The spiritual attraction, the spiritual power when you're in the presence of an Imam is too overpowering. Instances of Imam Sadiq, now we don't have time. He says, I see Imam is seated over there, nur coming out of his body, and that was the light that was pulling me towards him. I see Imam and I'm being told this is the Imam. He says, Salam alaikum. Imam replies to me and I'm crying. So Imam tells me, Muhammad Baqir, why are you crying? He says, Imam, I've been wanting to see you, I've been wanting to meet you. This is what I've been doing 37, 38 weeks. I've been constantly rescheduling all my appointments, rescheduling all my work so that I could come over here and recite this so that I could see you. He says, Imam shakes his head. He said, now, before now Imam, this talk is going on. As said Muhammad Baqir Sistani enters into that room, he sees two things. He sees Imam seated on the chair and he sees a janazah lying onto the ground. Let me digress now. In the year 1936, on 6th, 7th of January, Raza Shah, you know the Shah of Iran, right, at the time of Imam Khomeini. That was Muhammad Raza Shah. His father Raza Shah, the Pahlavi Sultan and the Emperor. Muhammad Raza at the time of Imam Khomeini. His father Raza Shah, in the year 1936, he issued a promulgation, a dictate, a ruling, which is referred to as the prohibition of the veils. On 7th of January in the year 1936, he passed a rule, it is forbidden for the ladies to wear hijab on her head. This took place in Iran by the father of the Shah that died at the time of Imam Khomeini. The first Muslim country to ban hijab, to ban the veil. It went to such an extent, on all government offices, the veil was banned. You couldn't wear a chadar, you couldn't wear hijab. It went to such an extent that police forces would be patrolling the streets. Ladies wearing chadar, they would go and they'd pull it off. To such an extent that even in shops, pick up the history, you will see. Even in shops, they would put up the notices. Be chadariha jinsne mi furushim. Those ladies who wear chadar, we will not sell you food. It's like you have no credit, only cash. The same thing over here. If you have a chadar, no, nothing will be sold to you. That was the situation that had developed. This is around those times that we're talking about. Aga Sistani's father enters the room. He sees Imam sitting. Now you understood what I'm talking about, the prohibition of hijab. It continued for several years. And then because of the backlash of the people, because of the outrage that developed, after several years, probably nearing about a decade, it slowly fizzled out and died down. Aga Sistani says, I enter into this room, I see Imam sitting, luminosity generating, being oozing from his body. I see him and I see a janazah lying in front of him. I'm crying. I did salam. Imam replies. He asked me, said, Muhammad Baqir, why are you crying? He says, Imam, I'm looking at you. 37, 38 weeks I've been trying to get you. Now that you've come, I can't control my emotions. He says, Imam shakes his head. He said, Muhammad Baqir, why do you have to go into so much trouble to come and see me? He says, because I want to see you. He says, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir Sistani, you don't have to go into so much trouble to see me. Be like this lady, I myself will come to see you. So he is asking, but what has happened to this lady that has prompted you to come to her? She says, this lady, when Raza Shah gave the ruling of Kashful Hijab, of prohibition of veil, this lady for 7 years did not get out of her house for fear of becoming in front of Mahram without hijab. 7 years this lady did not come out of her house. Now that she is died, I am coming to see her. Sayyid Muhammad Baqir Sistani, be like this lady, I myself will come to you. Why are you going into so much trouble of 38 weeks of Ziyarat Ashura to meet me? See, we go into a different mode. We go into a different concept. Riwayat say, if a man and an individual or a woman reaches the stage where he or she becomes eligible to receive the grace and recipient of the grace, Imam himself will come. Imam is saying, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir is saying, why do you go into so much trouble? 8 weeks for what? Just be like this lady, I will come to see you. You don't have to call me. You don't have to come to me. I will come to see you. Imam says, I will come to see you. There's so many instances I can tell you, but we don't have the time. The criteria I want to tell you. The criteria is there are certain parameters that Imam sets. There are certain criteria that Imam sets. There are certain rule of the thumb that Imam has set. If we don't fit into it, we don't fall into his group. If we don't fit into it, we don't become part of his my way. It is only when those logistics are completed, when those conditions are fulfilled, we become part of his my way. That lady, 7 years, the sincerity of following the rulings of the Ahlul-bayt, 7 years, doesn't go out of the house. Imam says, this is not left unseen by me. I know everything that goes on with you. 7 years you have obeyed me and not gone out of the house to follow our instructions. Now that you have gone, we will come to bid you goodbye. And when Imam comes to bid somebody goodbye, you know what happens. What else do you want? If you have the head of somebody in the lap of Hussein on the day of Ashura, khalas, then you're not worried about anything. Then you're not worried about anything. Imam puts his hand on John and says, John, you're leaving. What else do you want if you have your head on the lap of Hussein at the time when you're going? We keep saying, Kullu yawmin Ashura, kullu ardin Karbala. We should die with Hussein in our tongues. Baba, Hussein in our tongues is something else. Imam Zamana on our tongues is something else. As opposed to Imam Khud coming and saying, yes, you are our Shias. We are coming here to bid you goodbye into your grave. That changes everything. Understand this one sentence. I keep saying this. I might shout myself from Mount Everest, I am the Shiite of Ali. I am a Shia of Hussein. I love Ali, I love Hussein, I love Fatima, I am the Shia. It is irrelevant. Kabisa, it makes no difference to anything. It doesn't change anything. What changes is that Ali comes and says, Sheikh, yes, you are my Shia. Fatima comes and says, Sheikh, you are my Shia. Then things change. I may just shout myself hoarse and say, Ya Fatima, I love you. It is irrelevant, it is meaningless. Fatima comes and says, yes, Sheikh, you love me. That changes the dynamics. That changes the equation. And this is what we need to work for. And this is what we need to emphasize on. And this is what we need to listen to the last two majlis to know. Couple of points, not many. Couple of points, no time. But the point that comes is that when you have these individuals who are so outcoming to their followers, sincere followers, then at times we need to reflect as to what we have done with them and what we do to them. We tell our ladies hijab, so we don't accept these things. Baba, don't listen to music. Baba, it doesn't come into our understanding. What understanding? Where do you want to go? Eventually, we've been asked, go to the graveyard. This is where you're going to land up. However powerful, however strong, you're still going to go down. However, wherever you are, however influential, however rich, however powerful, you're going to go down there. Where are you going to take your beauty? Where are you going to take those musical solace and comfort and tranquility? This has become the vogue in our community. Oh, it gives us a peace of mind. What peace of mind you're talking about? If it was really giving a peace of mind, would God not have made it halal upon you? That means if God has made it haram, understand in that peace of mind there is something that is not right. If you have been asked to cover yourself, there is in exhibition of beauty something wrong that is not right. Where are you going? Look, Baba, go on to the internet. Look at those 1970 stars who were so beautiful and so prominent. The world were falling at their feet. Look at after 30 years how they stand up into the phases of time. Look at their faces. Look at the skins. Baba, where are you taking your beauty and going to go? Where? You have to go down. You have to answer. 7 years, this lady in the peak of her youth and beauty says, I will not exhibit my beauty because my Imam does not want me to exhibit. Imam says, I will repay you in kind. I will take you to your grave. 37 weeks. That old man and alim calls Imam. Imam says, I will not come to you. You come and see to whom I've come to meet. We need to realize this, but this all boils down to getting understanding and taking lessons. And what better place to learn lessons except Karbala? Karbala is a cheap lesson place for us to take. The lesson of sabr, the lesson of fighting against our own desires when it comes in opposition to God. And who other manifestation better than Zainab al-Kubra? See, after the incident of Karbala takes place, in the morning, in the Asr, the next day, that is the 11th of Muharram, from morning, because you know the 11th, the 10th Ashura goes in the killings and the burning of the tents and the lootings and the tramplings of the bodies and the severing of the head from the bodies. The next day morning after Namaz-e-Subh, Omar Asad and his members and his forces were all busy in burying their dead. They did not touch Bani Hashim. They didn't want to bury Hussein. Let him rot in the sun. That's what they were saying. Let him rot in the sun. We've got nothing to do with him. We've got his head, that's enough. Let the body rot. Morning to afternoon till the time of Zawal, they were busy burying their dead, the soldiers of Yazid. Namaz time in Zohar, after burying, they pray the Zohar. After Zohar, the ruling comes. Take all the captives, we need to go to Kufa. All the captives are made to sit on the mounts, but he gives one ruling. He says, take them towards Kufa. We are heading towards Kufa, but make sure that when you take them out from Karbala, don't take them out of Karbala straight away. Take them in a way that each individual sees the dead body of the dear and the beloved ones. I want to put salt onto the wounds. I want to rub it into them. Just killing is not satisfying me. And this was the bane that continued right from Karbala to Kufa to Sham. He says, don't let them just come out of Karbala. They have to see the dead bodies of their beloved one. Baba, what dead bodies? Baba, there was no head. They'd taken out the head, the headless bodies. So let the salt be rubbed into the wounds. The entire caravan taken. Layla sees the dead body of Akbar. Rabab sees the dead body of that 6-month-old child, Asghar. Farwa sees Qasim's dead body. All crying, weeping, they go towards Kufa. When they reach Kufa, it is near dark. As they are about to enter, Ibn Ziyad's orders come. You will not allow them to enter. Omar Asad, this caravan does not enter into Kufa at night. Why? Because in the darkness of the night, I don't want them to enter. I want them to enter in the broad daylight so that every Namharam puts his eyes on the face of Zainab and says, Hadihi Zainab bint Ali. Every Namharam needs to look at Zainab. Every Namharam needs to look at Sakina. Every Namharam needs to look at Kulsum and Layla and Farwa. That is when I will get tranquility in my heart. You will not enter in the darkness of the night. And you know, Zainab, this is 61 Hijri now. 23 years earlier, in the year 37 Hijri, this is 61 start, Muharram. 23 years earlier, Zainab had come into the same Kufa. At that time, you know how she had come? She had come as the daughter of the Khalifatul Muslimin. Ali was the Khalifa. She was now the Shahzadi. She was coming as the daughter of the Khalifa. But even when Ali moved from Medina to Kufa, to Kufa, at that time, he did not bring Zainab with him. He settled down in Kufa. When everything was okay, he told the others, members of the family, okay, now the women folk can come from Medina. But he says, let them come into the darkness of the night into Kufa. Baba, but there is no fear of hijabi because Zainab is wearing makhna. On the makhna there is a chadar. On top of the chadar there is niqab. She is sitting on a camel with a saddle. Around the saddle there is a small enclosure. In the enclosure there is a curtain. But yet Ali is saying, don't let Zainab come into the daylight. She has to enter Kufa into the darkness of the night. But Baba Imam, there is no fear, there is no risk of hijabi. Imam says, my ghairat, my love for Zainab will not allow me to let her enter in a caravan so that the people say, oh, the caravan of Zainab is coming. Today Zainab is entering into Kufa in a state there is no makhna, there is no chadar, there is no covering, there is no curtain. All that covers her from the mahram are her hair over her face. Everybody is looking at her. But I want to take you to a position before that. When Umar Asad gives the instruction, we need to move to Kufa. So now all the captives need to be made to sit on camels. Camel is a very high animal. You need help to be sitting on. At one time, Umar Asad tells some of his soldiers, go and make the children and the ladies sit down. Zainab is watching. She hears the instructions. She sees those soldiers coming closer to them. At one time she puts out her hand and says, no, you will not come near. We are now mahram to you. You will not help us out. So, but how will you climb? There are no males to help you out. He says, I am Zainab. I will help everybody. I will help everybody. Sakina, come, take my hand, sit on the camel. Layla, take my hand, sit on the camel. Rabab, take my hand, sit on the camel. Farwa, take my hand, sit on the camel. Sughra, Kubra, take my hand, sit on the camel. Ruqayya, take my hand, sit on the camel. Everybody is made to sit on the camel. There's two individuals remain. One is Zainab Kubra and one is Kulsum. Kulsum looks at Zainab. Zainab looks at Kulsum. Before Kulsum can say anything, Zainab says, Kulsum, you sit. I will help you out. She takes, now Kulsum does not resist. The tone of Zainab's voice was, she doesn't resist. She takes the hand of Zainab. She goes and sits onto the camel. Now Zainab is all alone. She looks to the left. There is nobody to help her to sit on the camel. She looks to the right. There is nobody to help her to sit on the camel. When she looks around and there is nobody to sit on the camel, Zainab is reminded of Medina. Zainab is reminded of the day when Hussein comes from the darbar of Walid and tells Zainab, we need to leave. Zainab does the packing. On the day when they are supposed to leave, they are all waiting for Zainab to come out. Hussein is seated on the chair outside the house. Abbas is next to Hussein. Akbar is on one side of Hussein. Near the door there is Honor Muhammad, and nearby is standing is Qasim. At one time Hussein sends a message, ask Zainab to come, we are getting late. Zainab is remembering all of this. As now the door opens and Zainab puts one foot outside the house, the whole atmosphere changes. Hussein, who was sitting, suddenly stands up in respect. Akbar, who was there, suddenly goes to one end of the horse, picking up the horse bridle. Honor Muhammad hold the hands of Zainab. Amma, mother, come, I will take you to the horse. Qasim runs to the other side of Akbar, holding the reins. Oh, Pupi, come on, I will make you sit onto the camel. As Zainab is moving, Hussein has stood up. Abbas comes running, puts his knees down. Oh, Shahzadi, put your leg on my knee and sit on the camel. All this is now moving in Zainab's eyes. All of this suddenly goes away. She looks around in Karbala. There is no Abbas, there is no Akbar, there is no Qasim. All of a sudden she is unable to control herself. Eyes begin to weep. Zainab turns towards Furat. Oh Abbas, at a time when I did not need your help, you came and promised me your foot. Now that when I need your help, you have left your sister and are lying near Furat. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلب ألا ولعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. ما تسمع حسين.